Let's begin, everyone. I'm so excited to welcome you to our, let's see, fifth of our six webinars for Snake Week. My name is Emily Taylor. I'm one of the co-organizers, along with Melissa Amarello from Advocates for Snake Preservation and Christina Zdenek from Australian Reptile Academy and the IUCN Snake Specialist Group. We had this wild idea that during the Year of the Snake, we needed more than just World Snake Day that we have every year. That was yesterday, so happy World Snake Day to everyone. We wanted to have a whole week to celebrate the wonderful world of snakes. That's why we're all here to share our snake positive messages and to learn about the incredible diversity of snakes around the world. So we divvied it up, and each of us all got to pick our favorite snake scientists from different continents. And so tonight we have someone really exciting to share the work that she's doing on the ground in snake conservation in Asia. But before that, a little bit more information. So here we are. We still have a couple of these seminars left. So if you haven't yet registered, then there's one more tomorrow morning for us here in the California at 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. We have Hiral Naik from Africa, and Hiral just got her PhD this week. So we're going to be able to celebrate that with her talk on conservation biology of African snakes. For tonight, though, we're really excited to have Jazz Ong from the Philippines talking about her work with king cobras. And before I introduce her, I wanted to ask everyone to please keep your mic muted during the presentation tonight. If you have questions, which I really hope you do, that you would enter those into the chat as they come up to you, or you can think about, writing those in the chat at the end if you have questions at the end. And then when we're all finished, I will moderate those. I will ask Jazz those questions on your behalf at the very end. Do please keep your chat limited to questions or to, I don't know, conversations about how awesome king cobras are. That's okay too. I got to see my first king cobra in the wild a few months ago. It was epic. Highly recommend to everyone else too. So I really look forward to hearing about these from Jazz. So once again, you can access all of these webinars, including pretty soon the recordings on YouTube of these webinars. Those will be posted to snakeweek.org/webinars. All right. So I'm really excited to present to you tonight our speaker, Jazz Torres Ong. I don't know why it says New Mexico Highlands University. That is a mistake, and I really apologize. In fact, it's such a bad mistake that I'm going to fix it right now. To put Wildlife Matters. I actually know why it says that. It was because of our previous speaker. So I apologize for that, Jazz. Jazz is going to tell you about her group, Wildlife Matters, and I just learned a lot from Jazz about her past. So I met Jazz at the World Congress of Herpetology in Malaysia, where I got to go for the very first time. God, was that a year ago now? It was a year ago. And we were in a symposium together where we were talking about snake relocation as a management strategy. And so I'm sure we're going to probably hear some about that tonight. But when I looked Jazz up online, I was surprised to see that she is what I call a Renaissance woman. She is a scientist. She is a conservation biologist who works with people on the ground there in the Philippines to help conserve snakes. She's also a singer, which is pretty awesome. So we're going to hear all about what makes Jazz tick, hear about Wildlife Matters, and hear, of course, first and foremost, about the beautiful and wonderful king cobra. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my slides, and I'm going to ask that Jazz shares hers, and we will begin. That looks great, Jazz, and you are muted.
All right, is it good?
It's good, and we can hear you, so take it away.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Hi, everyone. So today I'm going to talk about my experience working with king cobras here in the Philippines, as Emily mentioned. And before we begin, I just want to set some expectations for today's talk. So this is what you can expect to hear from me today. So I run an organization called Wildlife Matters, and I started the King Cobra Initiative. And what I want to share with you in this talk is a compilation of lessons, struggles, challenges, highs and lows that have come with the job of protecting one of the most misunderstood species of snakes on the planet. So this topic may not be the most technical, but I believe it's very important and something that we should all um, talk about. So I hope you guys enjoy. So just a little background about me. This is a picture of me when I was young, and when I was graduating. So I was never afraid of snakes growing up because I didn't really grow up in a home that taught me to be. My mother, she's actually a biologist. Now, a lot of people know that because she's no longer practicing and she pursued music. People ask me, why snakes? Or how did you conquer your fear of snakes? Why did you grow up so unafraid? And I would often ask them, what makes you afraid? Because growing up, I realized that not everyone shared the same feelings that I shared. I mean, I loved tigers, sharks, and anything that looked scary, looked cool to me. And I thought that people thought the same way. But then I realized, um, that wasn't the case. So I was interested in figuring out why other people were thinking like that. And again, like I said, I've always loved animals, especially those misunderstood, because I also grew up a misunderstood kid in a broken family. So I made it a point to just keep learning, keep exploring, literally from ridge to reef, because my mom would take me to aquariums and zoos, and my dad taught me to scuba dive. So um, eventually, I just found myself in snake conservation. If I was not in conservation, I'd be working with sharks, but we all know how expensive it is to scuba dive, so I'm stuck here for now. Just kidding. And the biggest lessons I learned about fear growing up is that the secret of conquering fear is understanding it. And you can't make somebody feel for something that they just don't relate to, the same way that I did when it came to snakes and other dangerous animals growing up. And fear is not the same for everybody. What I'm afraid of is are butterflies, and some people, they try to convince me. They say, "It's okay, so what, why are you so scared of butterflies? What is it? You know, they're not gonna hurt you." I know that. I know that they're important. I know they're not gonna hurt me, but I'm still afraid of them regardless of what you say. And it's okay. I think we sometimes, as conservationists, we're too hard on ourselves when we can't get a person to stop being afraid of snakes, even if we've explained everything. But sometimes people are just scared, period. And it's fine as long as they're not hurting anybody. What matters most is what you do with that fear, not that you're afraid of it, right? So now moving on to our topic of the evening, which is king cobras. Now, let me first introduce you to the two uh, new species of king cobras we have in the Philippines, because as of 2024, we have um, Gowrie and Daz published a paper that said that in the Philippines we have two species of king cobras, and for the longest time, we've already known that the king cobras in the Philippines are a different species. And this paper, we were so happy that this paper came out because it gave us the leverage we needed to keep pushing for research all the more. Because um, before, it was so hard to convince people why we should protect king cobras here, because everyone was like, "Oh well, we have them. You can go to Thailand and see king cobras there. Why do we have to save the ones here?" And if we would tell them, "But no, we have a feeling that this one's different," it wasn't enough. And I remember when the news first broke out, all of the media outlets were contacting me, and suddenly everyone wants to know about these new species of king cobras. And now that we have this split, because there's four species now, it's really, we're living in exciting times because there's so much more that we can learn about the natural history of king cobras, and especially of each species, because um you know obviously there are going to be some differences between the four species now. And so far, since studies are still ongoing, so far this is what I can tell you about them. So we have the Ophiophagus salvatana, or the Luzon king cobra, found only in Luzon. This one has a generally a lighter color and less distinct bandings compared to other king cobras. It's also said to have a narrower head and smaller occipital scales compared to other species. I always like to joke that this king cobra is so Filipino because they're small. And I know that Filipinos will get that joke. And it's only found in Luzon, except in the parts of Mindoro and Palawan. And then we have the Ophiophagus bungarus, or the Sunda king cobra, which I'm sure a lot of us are already familiar with. This one is more heavily banded. It's generally darker in color, and of course, they have a larger head compared to the other ones here in the Philippines. And they can be found in Palawan, Mindoro, and they can also be found in parts of Malaysia, the Sunda Shelf region, and Greater Sunda Islands. And then the other parts of the Philippines, those have still yet to be studied, the king cobra species there. So for now, we're referring to them as Ophiophagus sp. So we're living in really exciting times right now when it comes to the king cobra, and I'm so glad to just be a part of this story. So let me share with you a picture that we took of one of the Luzon king cobras that we rescued. So out of the two species, this one is the only one that's endemic. So you can only find it in the Philippines. It's my favorite out of all of them, even though it's the smallest and the least striking in terms of appearance, but it's a Filipino snake. So I love it. Um, so yeah, we all know that king cobras are snake eaters and they're very important to our environment. People think that they eat only snakes, but they actually eat monitor lizards as well. So I just wanted to share these photos of king cobras eating snakes and monitor lizards here in the Philippines, and what their living situation is like. So unfortunately, we have lost so much of our forests to both legal and illegal mining. Yes, legal mining, and of course, other factors like human encroachment. And we know that the king is usually seen in mountainous areas. So the more that it loses its habitat, it has nowhere else to go and often wanders into what are now human settlements. And that's when we have that snake-human conflict. And more often we find whenever we have sightings of king cobras, it's usually where humans are. So you could see from these photos that it's on um, concrete roads, and it really proves to show that they really are losing their territory and finding their ways to where we are. And of course, this is what their fate becomes. So what are some challenges we have when it comes to king cobra conservation? Well, first of all, the media. So um, we have a lot of media outlets here that like to demonize snakes, and I'm sure that also happens in other parts of the world. There was this one news outlet that even went as far as to say that king cobras don't naturally occur in Cebu. And a lot of the times, working conservation means having to debunk all these things, even if it comes out in news outlets. Some of them even make articles saying that during the war, Americans on their planes dropped king cobras into the Philippines, and that's why we have them. But king cobras are widespread throughout the Philippines. They've been here ever since, and they are native. So these are just fake news. And on the right, we see, which is actually a true story, that there was a king cobra that bit a woman who died. But what's more interesting, or if I were the one making this, I would say, well, this woman, after she was bitten, instead of going to the hospital where they possibly had anti-venom, she went to a witch doctor instead. And what if she just did the proper first aid? What if she went to the hospital instead? She she could have been alive, right? Why aren't we focusing on things like that? Why are we focusing on just demonizing snakes? Another one of the challenges are even if we have a law that protects wildlife, which is the RA 9147, we don't have enough enforcement, and we even have politicians who break the law themselves. So here on the picture on the right, this is a politician getting interviewed. He said that he will give a reward to anyone who delivers him dead cobras. So people go out and hunt cobras, and he'll give a cash reward for it. And then on the left, this one is actually an April Fool's joke, but still, in a country that lacks reading comprehension most of the time, people can easily take this as something that's real because it's happened before. So yeah, this is a huge problem that we face when it comes to conservation. And there are also problems like this where there's no other way to put it other than just a guy who won the Darwin's Award because he killed a king cobra and then he played with the severed head and got himself bitten. And he died. And guess what? Even if the king cobra didn't do anything to him, whose fault is it in the eyes of the general public? The king cobra. So it's horrible. And another challenge that people don't usually talk about here that I feel really convicted to talk more about is how there are some rescuers here who have the right heart but the wrong techniques, or the wrong heart and the wrong techniques. So there are rescuers who have wrong practices that can also, people don't realize, can also add to the hate um, against snakes. So we make it a point whenever we do our snake classes to teach safe, effective, fast ways to do it. Because when you try to sensationalize it, your rescue can add fear, right? So when you're doing an exhibition, like for example, in this photo, we see this rescuer stepping on the tail of a cobra to get it to hood up. You know, you're stressing the snake out. This can put you at risk of getting bitten instead of you. I'm sure anyone here who's worked with cobras, we all know that rescuing a cobra is boring compared to when you're rescuing a python that you get to wrangle, especially a big python that you get to wrangle and do cool stuff with. With a cobra, they won't constrict you. It's so easy. You just use your tools, put it in a bag, and you're done. But since that's not enough and entertainment sells, rescuers here, they usually make money through YouTube and they'll do videos like this, taunting the snakes for views. And sometimes they'll have thumbnails or, sorry, what do you call it? Titles, clickbait titles like this. In English, this says King Cobra that crows like a chicken, something like that. So again, these rescuers are spreading misinformation using clickbaity titles. And sometimes they'll even give wrong information about first aid. And I don't want to be a buzzkill, of course, entertainment sells, but there's a fine line between clickbait and misinformation. And we also have to weigh the pros and cons and set boundaries as to how far we can take it. Because the point is education and not misinformation. And some vloggers may even go as far as, and it's funny because the Department of Environmental and Natural Resources were the ones who told me the story, that some vloggers would even go as far as destroying natural habitats just to find snakes to take videos of. So, we need to, oh, sorry, I didn't get to explain the picture on the very right, which is someone who had the right heart, but the wrong technique, because this person wanted to save the snake, but he saw online that you can tape the snake's mouth, and that's exactly what happened, and the snake got injured, and so it died. So we need to build a culture of safety, of integrity, of passion, and of excellency, because this is something that's not often spoken about because so few of us, there's so few of us who can rescue snakes that people don't even question these things anymore. And we've settled for this kind of standard, this kind of mediocrity. And even with our rescues, we have to be strategic. And I know Dr. Emily knows so much about this. You know, you have to know your snake before you release it. Where was this taken? Does it have a specific home range? What environment does it require? Is it a native species? Because as rescuers, we want to be equipped. We should be equipped. And other challenges include, you know, just the lack of responders. We have a lot of rescuers, but not a lot of them who focus on who can rescue king cobras. Lack of released areas, lack of anti-venom, lack of wildlife facilities, lack of professionals working in those facilities, illegal keepers and poachers, and even rescuer poachers. So these are rescuers who, yeah, they rescue snakes because they care about them, but at the same time, if you ask them, hey, can I buy this snake from you? They'll immediately give it. So kind of defeats the purpose. This is a picture of a king cobra that was rescued by a government office, and it's actually a bittersweet story because they reached out to us and they really wanted to take care of it. But like I said a while ago, we lack the proper wildlife facilities and the professionals who can take care of them. So um, even even if I gave them advice on husbandry, they were just too afraid to try it out. And even if their heart was there, they wanted to save it. Of course, it eventually died from its living conditions. So, what a waste, right? And of course, there are challenges like this where people cook the snakes, they drink the snakes, gallbladder bile, thinking that it's traditional medicine. And even, yes, that on the upper right is a baby's butt. So there's this place where they take these vipers and they believe that its venom is medicine, right? So they'll actually get the viper to bite on these people and they believe they'll be cured from diabetes, from cancer, and all these types of diseases. And these poor snakes, hundreds and hundreds of these snakes are kept in horrible living conditions. So the government knows about it, they feature it on TV and everything, but nothing's happened. So it's really hard, especially when you know something's wrong and you know it's against the law, but the government is allowing it to happen. So those are just some of the challenges that I've faced along the way. And given my background in communication, and since I've always been a huge animal lover and I wanted to make a difference, I could have just sit there and watch it happen. I realized that if we want to save wildlife, it's not just up to scientists to do that. We need to help them. So I created Wildlife Matters. Wildlife Matters started off as a show and a YouTube channel, and eventually a Facebook page. And it was just making educational content that was informative and myth busting. And eventually, when we gained a following, my mission became clear, which was Operation Turn Everyone into a Conservationist. Now, not a lot of people know that I am not a bio graduate. I'm actually taking my master's in wildlife sciences, but my course in university was actually organizational communications. And don't get me wrong, I've always loved animals, but as someone who, I hope I'm allowed to say this, falls under the ADHD spectrum, I kind of looked down on myself in high school and I thought I would never survive bio. And of course, I didn't want to dissect cats. So I ended up not taking it. But now that I'm in master's, I still have to do dissection. But I couldn't escape the curiosity, and everything I know now, I learned after college. So I enrolled in courses on animal behavior, animal welfare. I volunteered, I traveled, I immersed myself as much as I could, and I learned from everybody. And it made me realize that, a lot of the times we are our worst enemy, and that thinking that we don't have a part to play in conservation when all of us do. So not too long after, I established the King Cobra Initiative, which is our project and basically just seeks to protect um, king cobras and other snakes, humans, and of course, in return, the environment as well. And I'll dig more into that later. But this is our conservation messaging strategy. So, first, understand your audience, speak their language, give them tools, lower the barriers to participation, show the impact, and repeat and grow. Starting off with understanding your audience. So when we see people killing king cobras, it's easy to assume that it's simply out of fear or out of ignorance. But the truth is, many of these actions are rooted in cultural beliefs, in folklores, in generational practices. And in the Philippines, people don't just kill snakes because they're afraid. They do it because they were taught that snakes will bring you curses, or that they're demons in disguise, or that, again, like I mentioned, drinking the snake's gallbladder bile has medicinal value. And snakes are also often treated as mythical creatures here. They believe that snakes will crow like roosters to lure you in before killing you. And others believe that after killing a snake, you have to chop it off and then bury each part far apart from each other so that it won't regenerate and come back for revenge. Some will even hang the snake's body and gouge out the eyes, saying that it's so that it won't come back after you in the next life, or that its relatives won't see you and come for you. But if we don't take the time to understand why people act this way, emotionally, spiritually, culturally, then any solution that we propose will just fall flat. So remember, this is a poor people problem. Like, the people who encounter these snakes are the people who are usually living in the poorest of areas. And these people, we can't just hit them with scientific facts that they won't be able to understand. Data and science alone won't change their minds. We need to have empathy, and we need to listen before we start to educate. So this is where my background comes in, of course. In Asia and in the Philippines, people think that we're culturally homogenous, but we're not. Um, Everyone thinks that Asia is just one country, and I hate that. but we're not. Because what could work in places like Thailand, where you could convince people, because in their, they have temples where they worship cobras. So of course the approach to them could be different from the approach here, where we don't have that. And even in just parts of the Philippines alone, what works in one area may backfire in another. So when we promote king cobra conservation, we can't just keep repeating the phrases, oh, they're endangered, oh, they're important. Um, it's it's not always gonna cut it. So instead, we have to ask, what matters to this community? Brian Fry talks about conservation through commercialization, and I love that. So you have to ask, what language does this community speak? Not as a dialect, but like emotionally, culturally, practically, what matters to these people? So in one place, saying they eat rats might work best if you're speaking with farmers, but in another, it might be more effective to say, oh, killing these snakes will give you bad juju, because they already believe in omens in that place. So, for example, my friends who work in crocodile conservation told me that there's this one place in the Philippines that they have no struggle with convincing the people there not to kill crocodiles, because they already believe that crocodiles are their ancestors. So, your strategy is about how you translate your message, because you're not really changing the truth, but you're changing the lens through which you present the truth. So in this photo, I was talking to some elders. This is an elderly community. And obviously, I couldn't just come in waving my data at them and expecting them to change their minds, but I asked them what they were most afraid of. And they said that they were afraid of getting bitten and having no access to help or antivenom. So of course, instead of arguing with their beliefs, I shifted the conversation, and I focused on things that were already important to them. So that was obviously family safety. So I said, well, many bites happen when people panic or try to kill the snake. What if we learned how to avoid that instead? And I taught them, what do you do when you see a snake? What do you do if someone gets accidentally bitten? And it worked. So by acknowledging their fears without dismissing them and their feelings, and gently reframing the conversation into actionable solutions, we build trust. And in return, that trust will open the door for learning. So let me show you this video of one of the king cobra rescues we had. We were bringing it up because we wanted to take pictures of it, but this is a perfect example of the behavior of Luzon king cobras, because I know that this is something that's not often seen in king cobras in other king cobra species, but let me show you. So a lot of people believe in the Philippines that king cobras chase you. And back then, when we never encountered a king cobra before, we would tell people, no, snakes don't chase you. Snakes are just, probably running in the same direction as you, blah, blah, blah. The same thing that we tell everyone. But then we realized it doesn't work, because based on their experience, based on what we saw in this video, technically it kind of did. I mean, did you guys see that? It kind of did, because the Luzon king cobra, it really has that tendency to mock charge. So people will think that it's chasing them, but it's just really scaring them away in the form of, kind of like half a chase. I don't know how to call it, but yeah, a mock charge. So when people tell us, they've been chased by a banakon, which is what we call king cobras here, we acknowledge that, and we just explain, well, you know what? It's actually more of a mock charge than them chasing you, because as soon as you're gone, they're going to turn away and they're going to go their own direction. And so, again, it's very important not to disregard what people are saying and how they feel. Oh no, I'm running out of time. I'll try to make this fast. So speak their language, design the message, not just the mission. Even if you have the best intentions and the best data, you can't just say protect snakes and expect people to follow. You have to design it according to what they fear, what they believe, and what matters to them. So this is an example of indigenous people who are known to be hunters. And during the whole talk, they were just talking about how, like, they kept interrupting us saying, well, there was a king cobra who knocked on our door, and when we opened it, we saw it. It crowed like a chicken, and it was trying to eat us. And it's so easy to make fun of things like this whenever we tell other people, but they really believe it. Again, these are indigenous people. They haven't had the same kind of education as us. They've lived in the mountains all their lives. They've hunted all their lives, and this is what they know. This is the knowledge that was passed down to them. So we didn't shame them for what they believed. And instead we were like, okay, we understand, but it's not possible because they don't have vocal cords. You know, we listened to them first before explaining to them. And right after the talk, they took us to the mountains to where the other tribesmen were. And they were the ones explaining snakes to the other IPs there. So I wanted to cry because I was like, wow, the results of this was immediate, and they decided that they didn't want to kill snakes anymore, and they still hunt other wildlife, of course, but at least they're not killing snakes. At least we're getting somewhere. So yeah, speak their message. And one of the biggest shifts in this initiative was when we moved from "let me save the snake" to "let's do this together." So that's where we incorporated tools like this the Report a Cobra form, which was a basically a website where people can just input their sightings, and it makes people feel like they're a part of something, because in a way, citizen science became more than just data collection, but more of like something that all of us are a part of. All of us are doing something for conservation, because I really believe that people should feel ownership of this cause, that it's not just a wildlife matters cause, but that everyone should feel like, oh, my advocacy is saving king cobras. So this is the forum that we had, and we also created booklets like this, which is like an easy to use, waterproof, weatherproof keychain booklet that already digested the scientific information to make it easily accessible, easily understandable, and it's even color coded: blue background for non-venomous, red for highly venomous, yellow for mildly. So we've distributed more than 500 of these already. So yeah, that's one of the ways. And of course, our educational videos. And in this slide, I just want to point out that sometimes you don't know which stories pique their interest, because this video that gained 3 million views is one that I didn't even expect. It gained more views than how to do first aid for cobra bites. So again, just keep educating, just be kind, be understanding, and don't force information down their throat. So and give them tools. So people want to help, they just need a way to. So make it simple, make it accessible, make it count. Even just buying merch alone can help you emphasize what that movement is. It's a conversation starter and also helps this movement keep going. So yeah, conservation shouldn't be exclusive to just scientists. You should make everyone a part of it. So this is just a sneak peek of the classes we have. We teach people protocols, handling, first aid. We even reenact scenarios. We include kids from the slums community, and eventually we also show the impact. So we make it a point to post a lot on social media so that people can see that this is what conservation looks like. It's real, it's human, it's messy, it's collaborative, but it's inclusive. Everyone is a part of it. Yeah, I'm gonna skip through the other slides because I'm running out of time. But one of the funniest stories I have is this one, actually, the one you're seeing right now. The guy on the very left, the very right, is a fireman, and they flew 2 hours to attend our class. It's funny because right after our class, they would send us videos of their rescues, and since they now know what a cloaca is, they're always like, there's the cloaca, there's the cloaca. So now they're looking at for every time they rescue a snake, they're always searching for the cloaca just because they can. And quickly, I'll show you this King Cobra rescue. This was the most successful we've had, and it was one of the first, because usually the government doesn't allow you to release snakes, but this time they partnered up with us, and you have to get permission from the community to release them. So we were able to convince the community as well. And in the Philippines, what happens is when you rescue a king cobra and it gets into the government facilities, they're just left there for dead. But this time we were allowed to release it, so that's such a huge accomplishment. Now skipping to, I'm gonna skip to this one, my last favorite story, which was when my friends rescued a king cobra. It was so sweet. The funny thing was we posted the video of me handling that king cobra. It was so well behaved that the hardest thing after that video was convincing people it was actually a king cobra and not just a rat snake. So it's hilarious, all these experiences we have with king cobras, and they are such special snakes that really deserve the title of king. So yeah, since we're running out of time, I just want to thank all these people. I'm just gonna skip through all the other slides now so that we can do questions. And yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Jazz, so much. Just so you know, we do have plenty of time. We
Okay.
we still have about 25 minutes until the end time. We can definitely go to, oh my God, that is so cute. The cobra. That is hilarious. We can definitely ask the audience to enter some questions in the chat for you now. But I just want to make sure you knew that we still have time.
Okay. Right. I was seeing here on the timer it was saying 49 minutes. I was like,
I think that's
I
probably
was
because, that's probably because you and I got on earlier and we're
oh
chatting.
right. Oh yeah, you're right. You're so
Yeah,
right. Okay,
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
bad.
We're so good. But thank you so much. That was so wonderful. And while I'm chatting right now, invite people to put questions in the chat, and I'll go ahead and moderate those. Um, but um, one of the things that I thought that you said that was really interesting, because I do the same types of things you do with rattlesnakes here in California and the United States, where I'm trying to help people coexist. And one of the things that you said that I hadn't thought about yet was the idea of um making everyone out there who wants to feel like they're a part of things, like making people a participant. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that, like strategies for doing that, for because I mean clearly that makes sense that that would work. But like how
Mhm.
do you do that? How do you involve all the people in the community in those efforts?
Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to get more into that a while ago, which was um the funny thing is our snake management classes, we never had a problem finding people to attend them. Because apparently a lot of people are interested, whether because they're interested in snakes or they they're afraid of snakes, or they know that there's a probability of encountering one in their area. So our classes, we really make them like all the information is dumbed down. All the information is, it's not, it's probably something that a herpetologist knows, but it's not something that a lot of people know. So when we teach them the protocols, like the proper protocols of international standard, of course, when it comes to rescuing snakes, how to handle them. Like, um, of course, we first debunk the misconceptions. People think that a snake is just a head and a tail. They don't know that it has a full body and there are parts that we should be careful when handling. And we also teach them first aid. Not everyone is gonna wanna handle a snake, and not everyone's gonna wanna do first aid, apparently. So it's all up to them. Like there's no forcing them to what they want to learn, because we have classes like we adjust our classes. Every time someone books a class with us, we're like, okay, what kind of people are in this community? What's their age? Like what are they already involved in snakes? And so every class is already customized. And then we do a lot of events where we have booths and we just get to connect with people, because a lot of people who are just some people are artists, some people are businessmen, and they want to know how they can help. And we give them ways, like for example, if you're an artist, you can volunteer as someone who makes these infographics, or if you're a businessman, well, there's nothing that you can't do, but sometimes they'll do, like for example, consulting as how we can make our business more wildlife friendly, right? Or sometimes we'll adjust even simple things like this booklet that we have, where we had to make it in like complete full um in a different dialect just for that community. So, yeah, there's always something that you can do. You just have to be creative about it and make sure it's clear to them that this is not exclusive to people who are already working with wildlife. We have so many different classes for kids, for people who just want to keep snakes, and for people who are medical professionals. Everything is, we adjust it to them, because it goes down to what I was saying a while ago. Like, you have to know your audience and adjust it to them so that they can um do conservation in their own terms, in their own way, and in their own understanding.
That's great. Thank you. My mind is spinning about kind of things we could do here. So thank you so much.
I
Um,
love it.
Here's a quick question really first, and then we have a couple longer questions. What's the website for Wildlife Matters?
We just have a Facebook page. It's Wildlife Matters, and we're also on Instagram, Wildlife Matters as well.
Perfect. So people can look you up on social media there. Great.
Thank you.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about why they're called king cobras and why they deserve the title of king, which is something that you said. Can you elaborate on that?
Mhm. Yeah, well, they're called king cobras because they eat other snakes. It's simple as that. So they're kind of like, ruling over the other snakes. Their diet is uh mostly snakes and like I mentioned a while ago, sometimes other reptiles like monitor lizards. But let me show you the first king cobra that I actually met. If you're not in the Philippines or if you're not working with snakes in the Philippines, then you probably don't know how hard it is to spot a live king cobra here. In places like Mindanao, it might be easier, but in places like Luzon, it's really hard. And I know a lot of herpetologists who are like, I've never seen a king cobra in my whole career, and they're now like 50 plus years old. And we get more reports of dead sightings than living ones. And so when I first saw this king cobra, I cried. Like this was such a career defining moment for me. And when you encounter it, you really see like just the beauty of it alone. Like the beauty is so matchless. They're just so sovereign. And I really hope that one day people will share the same kind of appreciation. But, until then, we just have to keep going. And yeah, there's no other way to explain it, really.
No, that's awesome. I agree with you. And so there's a kind of another question here that's a little bit of a follow-up to that, which is, have you seen any changes in the government's attitude towards conservation? Like, are you allowed to release the snakes back into the wild? Tell us a little bit about how the government views your efforts to go and rescue these snakes.
Right. So, yeah, going back to what I was gonna talk about a while ago. So, this was actually when the King Cobra Initiative had just started. Like, I didn't even think that anyone heard of it during this time because it was so new. And then the government called us and they were like, we have this king cobra that was surrendered to us from one of those wildlife shows. They just left it here and we don't know what to do with it. We have a facility, but we don't have the people to take care of it. And they paid for our gas going back and forth 2 hours every visit just for us to take care, give water, feed, give medicine, give vitamins to this snake. And so just from there alone, you could see how much effort they were already putting. And like I said, usually government offices, they don't care. I mean, not all, but a lot of them don't. And if you put a snake there, they'll just leave it, wait for it to die. And the paperwork, there's just so much red tape. Like, it takes so long for snakes to even be released, let alone king cobras, which are venomous. So I was surprised that they told me that the reason why this happened was because they saw that there was a thing called King Cobra Initiative that existed. And they said if this had not existed, then they wouldn't have even considered it in the first place, which was, I mean, that was huge. And they told us how hard it was going to be. They said it would take months and that we would have to lobby to the communities because, of course, a king cobra, it has a home range. You don't want to release it somewhere so far away from where it was caught. So the closest area that didn't have people, we still had to find the community that was closest to that area, and we had to get their permission. And um, fortunately, we did, and we even lobbied to the higher ups. We had to explain why it was important to release it back into the wild, and they told me it was one of their fastest releases and most successful releases ever, which took 2 months. That's pretty long for us, but for them, that was really fast because usually it'll be like minimum 6 to 8 months or never. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, baby steps, right? With the
Yeah.
government. Okay, we have a couple awesome questions left. So, here's one. David says he loves the grounded approach to snake conservation. He'll be doing some field work in a mountainous area in Luzon soon. Are there any tips you can give regarding staying safe in venomous snake territory? I know they're not aggressive, but they're incredibly hard to spot until you've already stepped on one.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Um, you'll have more chances are if you will step on one, it's gonna be a viper. So I would just say wear protective boots and just in case. In case of emergencies, bring your pressure bandage with you. If you don't have a pressure bandage, you know those splint bandages that you can get in Philippines, we have Mercury Drug or any drugstore. Those brown ones that you use when you sprain an ankle. Yeah. You could just buy that. Buy two, have it with you always, and then watch our video on Facebook. We have a video explaining how to do first aid if ever you get bitten by a cobra, how to apply a pressure bandage on yourself, and if you have a partner with you. So yeah.
Great. So we have a couple questions coming up here soon that have to do with, one of the main things we talked.
This is the story of the
Oh my
one.
God.
As a lineman, it's his job to keep the
Sorry.
power on. That's why he chooses Granger for
Sorry.
professional grade products.
That was
An
my
ad.
that was my browser open and my live streaming camera on the rattlesnakes turning off and going to YouTube. So I apologize. Okay, so it was about like messaging and about the strategies for talking to people about snakes, which was really, one of the main thrusts of your talk tonight. So we have two questions on that. One of them is Cielo or Cello, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, says that they're a newbie when it comes to conservation, really not scared of snakes, but that's the target species for the master's degree thesis, which is awesome. However, my mother has the opposite reaction when I told her what I want. My question is, can you give me some tips or advice on how I can explain to her or to anyone who has the same mindset when it comes to snakes?
Oh man. Yeah.
It's a great
I
question. I told them, I said, I love this question.
Yeah. I also experienced the same thing. My dad is actually afraid of snakes, and he was like, if there's any other animal you could focus on, please just you want to do sharks, just do sharks. Why does it have to be snakes? Um, but in my experience, just doing just being you, being respectful, of course, but being you, I always say conservation is it's contagious. So when they see why you're so in love with a snake and you're not getting yourself into accidents, you're not risking your life, but you're working with these snakes, they see your fascination, your passion, and when they get to understand also why there's no reason to be afraid of these snakes, eventually, I believe, like in my case, they'll come to your side. So my dad, um, like I said, he was so afraid of snakes, but he ended up being the one telling people not to kill snakes in our neighborhood. And he also ended up being the one buying me my first set of um tongs, oh sorry, snake hooks. So yeah, it just really takes time and showing them um letting your conservation message be contagious. Yeah.
Awesome. And then so a kind of final question that we have here, which is somewhat related to that, which is from She here. You mentioned earlier that you design the conservation like message depending on the audience. Since
Yeah.
the majority here in the Philippines still lack the knowledge and understanding of these snakes, how do you convince people to be part of that conservation when the snake has already caused harm to the community?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I'll show you an example of one time where we had to deal with that. Um, it's actually in, hold on, I'm looking for the photo, but this was during a talk. We were the government got us in front of farmers and we had to deliver a snake talk. And I was just like, oh man, this is probably the most nerve-wracking talk we'll ever have to have because it's usually the farmers who get bitten by cobras because cobras here are found in agricultural fields. And we were so scared because we already felt like we had lost before the talk even began. And so they kept on, of course, at first they were asking questions like, so what happens when, my husband, he was bitten, he almost died, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of them we thought we're gonna get violent at first. Oh, it's this one on the right. But again, you just have to listen to them. Because it's like these people want to be seen. Okay, we cannot change what the truth is. The truth is these guys had a horrible snake experience. But the truth is also that snakes deserve protection, that they're not aggressive, they're defensive. And we can't, of course, we can't be like, no, this happened to you because it was your fault. You weren't wearing shoes, no, because blah, blah, blah. We didn't focus on that or on correcting what they did wrong, which is what led them to the bites. Instead, we heard them out and we were like, in fact, sometimes I get really emotional when we listen to them because you, when you've kind of, when you've learned to, when you've learned how to be, how to have empathy for these people, you kind of, you kind of get on their level and you realize it's really such a huge problem. Like, what would you feel if you were this person, right? So how would you want to be spoken to? If that were me, I would want to be heard. So, yeah, we just let them voice out whatever they wanted to say. We carefully maneuvered our messaging to make sure that we weren't invalidating what they were feeling, but also still informing them. And in this case, we just told them, well, this is how you can avoid it next time, right? Because we can't keep focusing on the past, but this is how we can avoid it next time. And let me show you how to identify whether the snake is venomous or not. And here in this photo, these are farmers. These are the exact women who were complaining from the start that their husbands were bitten by cobras, blah, blah, blah. And look at their faces here on the right photo. They're smiling when they saw this rat snake climbing up my head. So, yeah, sometimes it's really in just your approach, how friendly you are, how open you are. Because when you come with like your fists closed, they're not gonna listen.
No, that's totally awesome. I mean, who wouldn't smile with that wonderful photo of that rat falling on your head?
Right.
Then of course the picture on the left, I want to know where they got their outfits because those are amazing. Tell me that those are like a uniform. Those are like that's like an army uniform or something. That's incredible.
They're firemen. Yeah, the Cloaca guys.
Those are those are fire. So there you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Jazz, thank you so much for your time. I will say tonight, but of course for you it's tomorrow in the Philippines and everyone. Jazz has been up all night because she works on you work on Canadian time, right? So you've been up all night. So now this is the end of your night, but it's morning for you. So wow, thank you so much for staying up with us and giving us this
No
presentation on
worries.
king cobras. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for watching.
Yes, this was wonderful. Thank you everyone for coming and we'll see you tomorrow again morning if you're here in the United States for our final Snake Week seminar with Haral Naik at 9 a.m. Pacific time on South Africans, well, on African snakes in general. And thank you again, Jazz. You've made me feel like my one king cobra that I've seen was not enough. I need to come visit you in the Philippines and we need to go herping.
Yes, please.
Okay, awesome. Goodbye, everyone. Happy Snake Week.
Bye.